I am very excited to be speaking with our next guest. We are speaking with one of the writers, the director, producer. He might have made cupcakes on the set. I'm not sure. I think he pretty much did it all. The movie is called My Dead Friend Zoe, and we are speaking with Kyle Hausmann-Stokes. Kyle, how are you today?
I'm super great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. I'm very excited to talk to you about this movie. I feel like I'm bursting at the seams, so I'm going to try to chill. I'm going to
Wow.
try to calm down.
Hey, I'll
Uh,
take it.
tell the good people what the movie's about.
My Dead Friend Zoe, it's a dark comedy drama about complicated friendship, about a divided family, and kind of the messy ways in which we process grief that are sometimes funny as well. It's very autobiographical. It's almost 93% based on my real lived experience. I was in the military. And yeah, that's to say that this film was about veterans. It's a universal film. You're going to laugh, you're going to cry. You're also going to learn a lot about the veteran experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
It's an incredible love letter to veterans. And for your first full length feature, I believe this is your first full length
My
feature. You can
first,
correct me on
yes.
that. Yeah. Wow. Just talk about blowing it out of the park. Now,
Ah,
first of all, I need to take a moment and talk about your casting. We just finished the Super Bowl, and a lot of people were talking about fantasy football. This is a fantasy cast. Let me read through some names here for the people. First of all, we've got some Hollywood heavyweights and Ed Harris, Morgan Freeman, and Canadian Gloria Reuben. Got to shout out the Canadian.
oh
And
yes,
and then we've got, I don't want to say up and comers, but people who are maybe not as well known, but well known enough that are still developing
totally.
their talent in terms of Sonequa Martin-Green, Natalie Morales, and Utkarsh Ambudkar. So from a casting perspective, how did you get this murderer's row of talent on your first film? Because I think a lot of people are going to be wanting to dip into that secret sauce because this is a fantastic ensemble piece based on the casting that you put together.
Okay. Well, I had first round draft pick in my fantasy casting league, so I got to take all the good ones. No, I wrote letters. I wrote letters. There's other things that went into that, but that's kind of the fun thing to say. In the military, in the JAG Corps, who are the lawyers, their motto is "the pen is mightier than the sword," and I always like that. And so, a lot of preparation went into this. Like I'm still a staff sergeant, just in a filmmaker's uniform now. So over the course of 2 years, I have been written and rewritten the script up and down. At some point, I made a short concept, a proof of concept short film that really showed. And I spent my own money on that to make it look great. I had this fancy deck, all this stuff. But then ultimately, when it came time, I just wrote a letter, man. And we started with Ed Harris. I knew I wanted to start with that role. That's my grandfather. I felt like I had the best shot of getting someone like Ed, but it's a shot in the dark. It's friggin' Ed Harris.
Mhm.
Um, but he responded to it. I put my soul into that letter and this whole film, and Ed had a connection to Vietnam veterans, a personal one, and he said he wanted to do the film. He really wanted to. And then once we had Ed, then it was like kind of an Ed Harris picture. And then we went out to these amazing women. Yeah, I mean, Sonequa Martin-Green is massive from The Walking Dead and Star Trek Discovery, and Natalie Morales, from Parks and Rec and so many funny films and shows. They signed on, and then Utkarsh and Gloria, and then Morgan was last, just like 2 weeks prior to us shooting that role. And my letter to him started with, hey, Airman First Class Freeman, this is Sergeant Houseman, because he's a vet as well. So we were able to kind of get into it like that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, your film touches on some very important themes. As you say, it's a dark comedy. There's some fun moments. There's some serious moments. You touch on things that are very important, like mental health. You touch on therapy. You touch on PTSD. I also love the fact that you're touching on female empowerment, and we're looking at military from a female lens, which is something that we don't often do. There were a lot of things that you're juggling in this film, and again, you're doing it all very well. Um, how difficult was that balance for you to be able to bring all of those themes into your film?
That's a great question, because there's actually even some things that we decided not to do because it's like, okay, we already are doing a lot of things, and maybe, I don't know, I am a less is more kind of guy, a Jerry Maguire kind of like, I'm gonna just be you, Rod, I'm gonna be your person. But I would say in some ways it was difficult, but honestly, like because this film is so autobiographical, it was just telling the truth, really. And for me, when I got back from Iraq and I was dealing with my PTSD, but then also like losing some friends, that's obviously going to be in the film. My grandfather at the same time was experiencing early on stage Alzheimer's, and then there's this discussion in my family to, let this he's a veteran, 22 years. He's a farmer. He's living his days out at this beautiful place, but we want to take him away from there and put him in a home. And then on top of that, there's, this like the love interest that comes in your life at the wrong time. And then this friendship. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things going on in the film, but that's like life, man. And
Hmm.
one of the things we veterans don't like, and I think any kind of minority group would feel the same, is like you just get pigeonholed and you're always the same thing. And just because you are a veteran, that's not the entirety of your identity. And so for
Hmm.
Merritt's character, Sonequa plays me in the film. There's just her veteran stuff is a big part of what she's going through at that moment, but it's not everything. So yeah, I just
Hmm.
kind of tried to make it like life.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier this is a movie that's a love letter to veterans, but I'm not a veteran. I still respected the hell out of the movie because there's a lot of things in the film that I can relate to. So, for example, one of the things that unfortunately, you and I have in common is dealing with grief and dealing with the loss of people in our lives. And there was aspects of this movie I'm thinking it's wonderful to see a film that speaks to that
Yeah,
can relate to people on that level. So again, thank you for that. Um,
thank you.
the next question I have to have kind of question comment is you mentioned earlier Sonequa Martin-Green is fantastic. A lot of people will recognize her from The Walking Dead. A lot of people will recognize her from Star Trek Discovery. Those are both two huge franchises that have massive fan
Totally.
bases to them. That being said, and I say this with all due respect to her career, I think that you have directed the best performance of her career. I say
Thank
that
you.
because as I'm watching this, it isn't rested on the
Concepts,
success of
yeah,
of
yeah,
other franchises. It's something brand new, and the fact that she's going toe to toe with these Hollywood heavyweights and holding her own and doing such an amazing job, making the audience laugh, making the audience cry, making the audience feel what she's feeling as she's so hesitant to be able to deal with the things that are going on
yeah.
in her life. So for a first time director, again, I'm like, who are you? Like this is just so incredibly impressive. As you're going through it, of course, an independent film, I'm sure there's like budgets and time constraints and what have
Totally.
you. As you're in the moment, though, as you're seeing it, do you at that moment are you able to notice that you're doing something really special, or is it not until after you've kind of put it to bed and you can sit back and watch it?
Man, that is a good question. I think I feel like I did the hard work in writing the script. I worked very hard at that for years, I've been directing for almost 20 years, and so it's also weird to be like a quote a first time filmmaker. It's true, it's my first feature, but I've been doing this for a long time, commercials, TV, docuseries, but never like the big leagues like this. Um, and so I feel like I did the work on the story and on the page, and then in the casting. Casting is where you make it. And then I got the hell out of the way, and just let them do what they're going to do. And yes, of course, like I Saniqua and I talked endlessly before, during, after the making of this thing, but she is such a raw talent, and I think everybody knows that, and they will especially know that after this film. She is so subterranean. She's got so much going on in this film, and it's so hard too because she sees literally a character that no one else sees. She's playing opposite Morgan Freeman. She's got to deal with that while she's got this snarky Zoe, Natalie Morales, pulling her attention, and it's all grounded too. Like I very specifically said, this isn't going to be a drop dead Fred. This isn't necessarily going to be a Fight Club. We've all seen the dead person thing. This is going to be super grounded. So that was a lot on her shoulders.
Mhm.
Um, so we talked a lot, and she just like osmosis me up. Even the way that I run, she emulated the way that I run, and she asked me all these questions. And but Sneak wasn't such a talent. I take zero credit for all that she is, and I just think that she hadn't maybe had this role put before her, and I was just lucky to be the guy that at the right time was like, "Hey, what about this?" And she just freaking killed it. So I'm so excited for people to experience her performance.
Yeah, I'm excited for more people to see it as well. I know that it's already won the audience award at the South by Southwest Film Festival. I believe it also won a couple of other awards at the Woodstock Film Festival.
Yep.
It's been extremely well received, so I'm very excited, like you are, for more people to see it. Now, obviously, again, not to keep repeating myself, definite love letter to military, but
Yes.
also for a much wider audience. What do you want audiences to take away from your film?
Thank you for that question. A couple things. Very tangibly, for people that turn up to see this film in theaters, which I hope they will, this is my PSA and my sergeant telling you what the heck to do. February 28th, we're in theaters. If you see it in theaters, there is a very special call to action message in the end credits right away. Ed Harris, Sonequa, Natalie, myself, with a QR code on screen. So if you're moved by the film and you want to like freaking do something about it, we are giving you the opportunity to do that in the end credits. So I hope people will turn up and see that. We're working with these three amazing nonprofits, Bob Woodruff Foundation, Every Town for Gun Safety. The mission continues. So people can like, it's just so cool, man. You can be entertained and go to the movies, which I love, we all love, but then you can also like support
Hmm.
the real people. So that's like a very tangible takeaway that I hope people will do. And then just more on the squishy side, I hope that this film is a conversation starter for people that have a veteran in their family or in their friend group, or that they just maybe meet. And it's like, God, I just saw this film about veterans. And, I never, it made me think about them in a different way. What I would love to talk to you if you're, I'd love to like take you to lunch or go for a walk. Like, wait, so what branch were you? What was your job? Where were you? Like, what? Tell me a funny story. Tell me a sad story. Tell me all the stories, and just create space for that. Because we want to talk about it. The old grumpy veteran who doesn't want to talk about it. That is only a thing because people have asked in the wrong way or in the wrong context. But we definitely want to talk about it, and that's the message behind this film is that the way to move on is to talk about it. So I hope that's the takeaway.
Appreciate that. Now, in terms of, I want to ask you about from a directorial standpoint, your inspirations. Now, again, I'm raving about this film. I'm raving about the amazing work that you've done. But who do you take your inspiration from as a filmmaker? Obviously, it's very personal. This is your life, and I get that aspect of it. But in terms of being able to take that and put that up on the screen, like who are some of the people that have inspired you as a filmmaker?
I would say three people: Judd Apatow, Jason Reitman, and then Catherine Bigelow. And in that order, Judd Apatow, I have a small connection to. I used to work for his manager when I was just a young punk intern, and Judd called me out of nowhere one day, and he asked me if we veterans were funny. And I said, "Yeah, man, we're funny." And he was maybe thinking about doing a film about that, and asked me if I had something. I didn't, but it planted the seed to be like to show the world that we are funny, there is humor there. And Judd, not only because of that, but his films like King of Staten Island and Trainwreck, those are funny movies, but there's like real stuff in there. And I think it's harder to do a film that transcends genre and things like that. So if you watch Judd's films, they always do have some kind of social message in there and makes us feel better about each other and human beings. Jason Reitman also like Up in the Air and um, some of these films, like I think he also just does a good job of like just it's not one thing, there's levity, there's dark humor in there. And then Bigelow, just because I think she has honored us as service members and veterans, and has put females in the forefront. And it takes a lot to tell someone else's story. It takes a lot of guts to do that and to do it well and to have the patience for it. And I always thought that she did. So.
Amazing, amazing. Just before we wrap up, I want to take you through a little fun rapid fire questions. I got a couple here for you. Excuse me. The first question of rapid fire is always, what is your favorite movie of all time? And if you can't give me one, I'll take a top three.
Favorite movie of all time? I'm gonna go Wayne's World. It's because it's like right there. It's right there when I grew up. I used to watch it every day after school. I love it. Yeah.
There's no wrong answers in rapid fire. That's a solid one. The Academy Awards are coming up. If you could go through any of the categories and you could just, pick one person to be a winner in that category, what's your one pick that you'd love to see win this year?
Amelia Perez, hands down.
Nice. Okay.
Directing, best film. my favorite film of the year. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. And last question for you. Again, Murderer's Row of talent, and I'm hoping we get to see more films from you. Who would you like to work with going forward?
So many people. And now I'm spoiled now because of Morgan and Ed. Tom Hanks cares a lot about veterans and the military, so he would absolutely be a big one. Yeah, Tom, I think would be kind of like the number one, just because I feel like he's also interested in telling like uplifting stories, and just kind of brings the world together. So yeah, that'd be a dream come true.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, listen, I want to thank you again so much for the film, so much for your time today. The film is coming out, I believe it's February 26th,
February 28th, theaters
28th.
nation 28th, yeah, theaters nationwide. And yeah, like I said, we just if you wanna tell Hollywood that you want to see more films like this, original stories, good stories that are not just derivative franchise, no shade on those things,
No,
but the way you do that is by seeing it in theaters. So we really hope people will turn up to see it in theaters, and it's help us send a message.
100%. I think this is a movie that needs to be seen in a theater, and I 100% agree with you in terms of this is the type of film that sparks good conversation, conversation that we need to have. And from a filmmaking standpoint, I think you knocked it out of the park. And from a film that, we're in a world right now where a lot of people like the streaming, and that's all right. But if this is playing in a theater in your city, you have to go and see it. So, Kyle Hausmann-Stokes, I want to thank you so much for your time. I want to thank you so much for your film, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, man. Appreciate you.